I don't think that I'm going to have to wash dishes anymore.
I think you will find that you have to wash some dishes, I'm afraid, for at least the next month while you're here.
I don't know when I'm going to visit because I don't really want to feel like a fucking failure, you know? And I know I'm not a failure because I've come so far, etc., but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to come home until something's changed.
Can you imagine what it would be like if that did work out?
Now, if you'll just follow along with me, we'll be on our way.
My mum can't even comprehend it. What I'm talking about, I'm saying, this is happening. I don't know when. I can't give you a time frame, but I know that that's happening. Are you prepared for that? Saying that to myself, like, are you prepared for that level of success?
Come home after 4 years and, oh my word, hello, I'm just off.
Last time I was in England for Christmas time, you went to India.
It would break his heart because he's like, I ain't come from being homeless, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't come from not having, he's like, you know, like he had a wife, right? And they had
good enough reason. That's exactly why I know you would never move to LA, because you don't want to.
I'm going to England having been through a lot of stuff that people aren't really aware of, and I'm anticipating that feeling of like, feeling like you don't really know who I am. Yeah. I thought I moved here when I was 20 years old.
As if this were my moment, right?
yes.
I remember coming here and just immediately being in love, like in love. Here, Los Angeles, and you came here knowing nobody, right? Because you don't have anybody here.
It's not a sad or morbid thing, it's just facts.
Like, what might be a reason that you would share that and it's telling somebody about you, what you're feeling?
Oh my God, Kimiko. You, if you think about Kimmy, you are a very risky person.
What do you think that's all about?
It's obviously pride, but I think it's just like, those are the things that I guess make up your day, and whether you like them or not, that's what your life is about, not like all these big crazy moments that happen to you. And I think if I don't share those things, then people don't really know who I am.
So you want to be seen?
Yeah, I want people to know who I really am.
Of course it's gonna pay off, Kimmy.
Talking to my attorney, he's like, you need to handle this like an American. I'm not going to file for bankruptcy and then file for my citizenship right afterwards.
It's
like
a big amount of money, but it's not so huge that I couldn't get like the right income.
I'm sad, but I'm not stressed, if that makes sense.
His voice is unintelligent. He wears cheapest suits known to. Fuck, are you fucking kidding me? Well, who the fuck cares?
I need to come back with a bang and with a fucking car, because this has been rough.
Vivian returns to England at some point. To jump location is very expensive. It's not a super low budget film anyway, particularly because the story is told from the POV of Grace. I didn't have the real estate to give it to Vivian in this first film. I hope that, if all being said, we make another film after this one. We get to go to England and we get to go to South Korea. That would be amazing, because we're looking at a side of England that we haven't really seen very much in cinema, particularly over in the States. A lot of the time England is depicted primarily around affluent areas of London. That's a lot of what I've seen in American cinema, and not really much else. I look forward to doing that in the second movie.
In other words, you can tell by the way you feel, because your inner being is source energy and thinking about the things that you are thinking about, and has a very clear perspective. When you say you want something, your inner
too real. It made for an exciting story because, believe it or not, there's parts of my life that have been pretty traumatic and dramatic.
You know, everything happened for a reason, and I know God has a lot in storage for you. even when you don't see it.
They were too close to home, which was already, I don't like to do that too much. Also, what I wanted for Grace and what I wanted her to achieve in the time span that we have in this first feature, again, it didn't make sense. A trip that the two of them took that was heavily based off of a trip that I took with somebody just didn't push the story forward enough to warrant it being in there. They're beautiful scenes and I have them like packed away somewhere.
It's time to get you ready for takeoff. Just breathe. Keep in mind, it may be behind you.
This isn't super significant and that's why it got cut, but there were a couple of scenes with Grace's parents. I just felt like it didn't need to be shown. We are getting to know Grace on a really intimate level, but I trust in the audience and I trust in storytelling. I trust in the writing, the directing and the acting that will be, that you won't need to see every facet of her story or her background to really understand who she is. People watching the film have emotional intelligence enough to decipher what's going on. One interesting thing that got cut, one of the driving forces of Grace is her desire to become partner at her law firm. There was something about that that didn't quite add up for who Grace is. Not that she's not a go-getter, she's a badass, but it was not really the point of the story, and it lended itself to another kind of a character, which I didn't see Grace being. The interesting thing about that is a series has just been released onto Netflix called Partner Track, where Ingrid Young, among other things, is obviously moving towards or wanting to move towards making partner in her law firm. She's not a divorce lawyer, but she's a lawyer. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. The timing of it, I guess, worked out because it really wasn't who Grace was. Grace, who is the protagonist in the story, she's a divorce lawyer. I'm having a tough time. Somewhat outdoorsy, and you like, I hate to say it, you like mountains and hiking or beaches or camping. You're like, oh yeah, being here, that I'm more like a city person than I thought I was. There's a lot of things that I had an inkling about perhaps how I grew up that had something to do with some of my fears and limiting beliefs that I thought were there, and to return to England and be around just people and obviously my family too, you start to see why you are the way that you are.
Lean cuisine is not a meal.
Some things are there to be talked out and some things are there to be learned from, and conversations are there to be had. There are times when there's no conversation to have anymore.
I think I might be an alcoholic. Very funny.
It's just, you know. Before I moved to LA, I lived in the middle of nowhere, and I guess because it was like such a different time in my life and I knew it was going to be for a finite amount of time in my life, it was enjoyable. And it was a culture shock when I first got here. I was like, oh shit.
The wedding photo? We just thought it was a nice memory. Of my failed marriage?
It's a fire.